Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have enjoyed a wonderful networking during the coffee break. We are now honored to invite our panel discussion speakers for the Forum of Research Centers. Former Director of NCTS, Professor Jing Yu, President of American Mathematical Society, Professor Ken Ribbett. Director of Korean Institute of Advanced Study, Professor Yong Hai Kim. Director of NCTS, Professor Rong Kai Chen.
For the coming hours, it's going to be the forum for the research centers, and Professor Jing Yu just told us that the establishment of the NCTSE was kind of modeled after MSRI, and so maybe I would like to ask Professor Ribbett by sharing your view of what the great research center should look like and what MSRI looks like.
Okay, so I can talk in very general ways about lots of different institutes. And I guess my own experience, first of all, I spent a lot of time in MSRI. I've never been part of the governance of MSRI, but I was there at its creation. I was in one of the first programs, a year-long program in arithmetical algebraic geometry. And then I've spent a lot of time in two other institutes, at IPAM, which is the Institute for Pure and Applied Mathematics at UCLA. I was on the Scientific Advisory Board for many years, and now I'm a member of the Scientific Advisory Board for the Simons Center for Theoretical Computing, which is on the Berkeley campus. And I would say that institutes are quite varied, and there's no one single way in which they can succeed. I think it's very important, number one, to have a very strong and imaginative scientific advisory board, because the actual scientific activities at the Institute very often are dreamed up by the advisory board before anything happens. So you can imagine that you're the director of an institute and you just sit there and you wait for people to propose programs. They say, oh, we'd like to come and do a year on partial differential equations, or we'd like to study Riemannian geometry, or number theory, or large data sets. But in fact, there's a lot of work to be done between the initial idea of having a program and actually presenting something concrete that the Institute can act on. And most people, even who kind of think that they want to have a program, need a lot of encouragement and help before they actually develop a concrete proposal that the Institute can judge. And many people are quite capable of coming forward with a beautiful proposal, but they need encouragement even to start writing, to start thinking about what they'd like to do. So it's very important for the people at the top, including the Institute director or directors. There might be a senior scientist or some permanent faculty. Every institute is different in structure. There is typically a scientific advisory board. All these people have to be very proactive about what they'd like to see in the coming years. I can talk more. That's all right. I mean, one thing that's amazing is, as Yao discussed this morning, when the MSRI was first imagined as some second institute, there was a lot of hostility in the mathematical community in the US and question about what this institute might be. And the institute, when it first started in Berkeley, was some sort of West Coast analog of the Institute for Advanced Study. It was only one model for what an institute might be. There weren't all these different institutes that have now grown up. And MSRI just started as a place for people to come and do their research and talk to colleagues in the same field. And it was a very inward-facing sort of institution. And gradually, I think Bill Thurston, who was institute director in the early 90s, was really instrumental in this. And so was Lenore Blum, who was assistant director. They started rethinking what MSRI should be. And they said, well, this institute should be looking out, and it should involve members of the general public at special events. And there should be high school students during the summer, and teachers of high school students, and undergraduates. So there should be all different communities coming through the institute and speaking to each other. And even in the presence of a general program that might last all semester, there should be special workshops about other programs. And there's kind of lots of churning of different people who interact with each other, and very often they can offer each other perspectives that are very valuable, that you don't get just from your own community. And MSRI was one of the real path breakers as to what a mathematics institute could be. It was a completely new vision. And that really set people thinking about different ways that institutes could present themselves to the community.
Comment a little bit is we 20 years ago we looked for the models around the world. Of course, MSRI just in the 90s. I think the MS had come up, and people, of course, many of us come from the States, educated in the States, so we naturally looking for our models from the MSR. Yeah. We talk about MSRI more than the institute at Minnesota. Okay. It's maybe more applied nature, but anyway, that's where when we started this. Also, as Professor Yao told this morning, at the beginning of there are these suspicions from whether there is a need for such an institute. Besides, IAS already there, still there, very successfully. And I myself had spent 1 year in the 80s, and IAS, and I enjoyed and I benefited a lot from there. And so we also think about that. And when the National Science Council started, there is also about half a year or even maybe 1 year that there are discussions. And everywhere in Taiwan, several universities whether to start such centers. And I myself come from the Academia Sinica. I was there for 20 years. And so people, there do exist people in Academia Sinica who are doubts about the need for such a center. But after these 20 years, I think really, because the Institute of Mathematics at Academia Sinica is already there for several decades. But there is a distinction. It's different for the institute and for the faculty at university. And so at NCTS, of course, we want it's for all the faculties, mathematics in Taiwan. And so I think looking back in the last 2 decades, they succeed to an extent is for helping or supporting all the faculties of the universities. And although Academia Sinica has certain setups or channels to cooperate with university professors, but I think that's different, quite different from the NCTS. We try to set NCTS as a cake or as a common ground for all the people, all the mathematicians to join. Because in Taiwan, as I told this morning, in the past, we will have those small individual grants to apply from the National Science Council. We don't have those group grants or big grants that exist in the West, in Japan or in Europe for a group of mathematicians in the field to use together to develop there. We don't have that. So in a sense, NCTS also meets that need in Taiwan, I think. And after we started NCTS, in several phases, as also been told this morning, there were debates. On average, we change phase, it's headed for the directors. You see people from different universities fight for this and fight fiercely for these resources. And so I have to meet with university president to discuss that. Actually, once I think it's changed to a second phase, also I met with President Liu Yanzhe, who is the Chinese Nobel laureate, who was in a sense the godfather of science research in Taiwan, and who because we have those debates and those fightings, who campaign, and then I came to see her, to see him and discuss, things long discuss, and actually I think I succeeded at least make him understand. Besides academic syndicat, the NCTS is a worthwhile, it's a significant setup for the scientific research. Maybe not all people in academic syndicat agree with that, but at least Liu Yanzhe agreed that, and he have to set the discussions, the debates, or the fight for the phase changing during that time.
Can I say more things too?
Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry, you get me talking, I'll say a lot of things. So, I mean, one theme when MSRI first started is that a lot of people thought in terms of a zero-sum game. The National Science Foundation had only a certain amount of money for mathematics, and if it created a second institute, that would, in effect, defund lots of people who were otherwise getting support from the National Science Foundation. Well, I think the directors of the National Science Foundation were able to convince the community that this would somehow be extra money. But very often, even the way you were just talking about, getting a grant for this and a grant for that, people are very suspicious if their colleagues get something special. And one thing that can really help an institute is if it generates its own funds from private donations or from corporate donations, because then people see that with a relatively small amount of money from the government, something much better can happen. And when an institute has its own funds, it can do things that it wants to do without asking anybody else. If you have an institute and you want to have a special program for postdocs, or you want to have a special event that involves inviting a speaker, and it wasn't somehow known in the original grant, then you're stuck. You say, well, this is not consonant with what I applied for. But if you have your own fund, you can just say, well, we'll do it. And this will increase the glory of the Institute and will certainly improve its reputation, both inside the mathematical community and well beyond.
So from Assemble that MSI has been very successful in fundraising, that maybe 40% or 50% of the budget are from the private sectors.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Let me comment just a little bit. Yeah, I think fundraising is an important move, and it's a courageous and move. In Taiwan, in the past at least, it's not so easy to raise money for this kind of academic research. I mean, for example, Professor Yao, very successful in raising money in Hong Kong, for example. Yeah. But we told him several times, Taiwan is different from Hong Kong. Okay, in Taiwan, there was a saying that, you see, it's religious. Some temples is easier to get money, or those politicians easier to get money, but not for the private section to donate for the academic purpose. But that's important. I mean, since it has to make some changes sooner or later. I think that's important move. And one more thing about the idea, the things Professor Ribet just mentioned, the zero sum. idea. It's in here, we also talk about that. So many times and many occasions, there were even mathematicians who raised a question to National Science Council. Why just put aside the NCTS, just divide all the money to all the grants of the individual grants. They asked that, and that's one reason. For example, every time Faith and I talk to people who are the presidents of various universities, so that they won't, and also the official from the National Science Council, to convince them that to separate such this small amount allocated this money for STS in the long run is much better than divide it into the private, all these individual researchers. But indeed, there are many times people raise this, and they fight. Sometimes there are occasions when they're fighting for the debate for a set of the center, and was fierce fighting. Then NCTS few said, "Wow, it's not worth, but I just let these vanishes and we put money, just divide money. That's easier for them to do, you see, in some sense. But so it's our job to persuade them to keep this. I think in the last 10 years, this was, we managed to do that. That's important. That's not so trivial. People do request that we put aside this idea of NCTS in Taiwan.
So KIAS is kind of the twin brother of NCTS, because the initiation of the NCTS kind of after the initiation of KIAS. So could you share your experience of KIAS?
Yes, actually I prepared some slide, but if you give me some time, and then I can show about KIAS. Well, before that, I'd like to first of all, congratulate 20th anniversary of NCTS. Well, I'm quite sure you have overcome various adversaries from all sectors, like inside mass community, and also from outside mass community, even some bureaucrats and politicians. In my personal experience, bureaucrats are much tougher than politicians. Politicians are more friendly than bureaucrats about mathematics. Before going to this, I'd like to, do you have any record of raising private fund? It's always very difficult in Oriental society. Even in Japan, it's not easy to raise money from private side. It's also very difficult in Korea. But I think it is a kind of traditional culture. So the people believe that pure science, supporting pure science is government job, not private side. So of course there are some philanthropic mind or idea, but still, so we also, as a former president of KIAS, I tried to raise private fund. But I got some money, but not much. But fortunately, when we start 21 years ago, 1996, we were successful to persuade Samsung company. And then we got about 2.5 million US dollars. So that was good starting point, and also that's good point to persuade government to establish this institute. But also, the other reason is that in Korea we don't have Academia Sinica or equivalent. So this is another reason. So anyway, let me briefly go over of my institute, KIAS. But KIAS was established in 1996, So we celebrated 20th anniversary last year. So Professor Chung Kai-chan kindly to come to our institute and share his time with us. We are officially part of KAIST, but we have full autonomy. Of course, this autonomy is not given from the beginning, so sometimes we fight against. Well, some president of KAIST think that KIAS is just a part of KAIST, so he wants to do swing this and swing that, and you should come to KAIST and you should be part of KAIST faculty member. But we don't want to be involved in that big conglomerate. The pure science, theoretical science can be easily overlooked if you inside the big applied science or experimental science. So we want to keep, this is a key factor, we want to keep our autonomy, even though, actually we got the money from the government directly. We just share a board of trustees, board of regents with KAIST. Of course, this board, all their interest is on KAIST, not KIAS. KIAS is too small compared to KAIST. But that's, in some sense, it's good because they don't pay much attention to us. Okay. So this is where, this is the map. We are in Seoul. Inside Seoul, we are in the northeastern part of Seoul. So you see the river. This is called Han River. It's about a little more than 1 kilometer width. And then the south of the Han River is new town of Seoul, so called Gangnam, south, river south. Well, KIAS, we share Seoul campus of KAIST, but Seoul campus of KAIST, they have only a business school, so they don't have any undergraduate student or any student from science or technology. So this is one kind of missing key factor of KIAS. We don't have easy access of students. So we don't have any student, and we don't have any student surrounding our institute. So always we we always try to gather students to come to our institute. So this is a brief history. KIAS was founded in 1996. Okay. And then from the year, the School of Mathematics and School of Physics established. And 1998, Associate Member Program introduced. And then 4 years later, 2000, School of Computational Sciences established. And KIAS Scholar Program, this is the program inviting foreign scholars. And Open KIAS Program, this is outreach program. And Center for Advanced Computation, this is more related to School of Computational Sciences. And Center for Mathematical Challenges, as you see, this is more related to the School of Mathematics. And Quantum Universe Center is more related to School of Physics. So basically the mission is similar to NCTS. So excellencing in theoretical basic science research, cultivating young scientists, postdocs, and leading Korean science and technology to a world-class level. And let me skip this. School of Mathematics, we cover all branches of mathematics. Currently, algebra, number theory, algebraic geometry, topology, geometry analysis, and applied mathematics. And School of Physics, they cover theoretical physics. And School of Computational Sciences, they do nanoscience, information science, life science, and combinatorics. So science by the computation and for the computation. So unfortunately, we don't have any pure computer theorists here, but we try to have one, but not yet successful. And conduct research in theoretical basic sciences, covers computational sciences, but no experimental or lab sciences. We have about 7,000 visitors per year for various scientific activities. So here's our permanent member. As I mentioned before, KIAS is kind of academia sinica, so we have permanent member. So it's kind of academia sinica in small scale plus NCTS or MSRI. So you see School of Mathematics has many members, and physics and computational sciences. While we have several notable or distinguished achievements. KIAS scholars, for example, Kamat here, Katanese and Jason Park, Ohi from Yale University, and so on. Ashok Shan from India, physicist, Jun Hall, Sabu Shin from Berkeley, another theorist. And this is a kind of publication. Well, in publication, mathematicians seems kind of sleeping comparing with physics column. So this is one thing we have to explain to our government from time to time. Okay, and alumni of KIAS, this is core part. So we foster postdocs up to 4 years. So 2 + 2, initial appointment is for 2 years, and then after evaluation, we give them 2 more years. So and then after 4 years, so we kick them out. And some of them come back as a professor. So accumulated total is 366, and about half of them end up position at domestic universities, and 100 is research institute, and overseas 71. Well, so let me skip this. Quantum Research Center. Well, these 3 centers are not permanent program. So School of Mathematics, School of Physics, and School of Computational Sciences are permanent programs. Even though year by year, the budget might be shrinking or expanding a little bit, but it's kind of steady. But centers is like every 5 years we evaluate. So this is transdisciplinary. And facilities, actually this is the original building we started in 1996. So only kind of not all buildings. I mean, just maybe 3 stories. And also we use 1 story of this building. And then actually last year we got a new building, this whole building. So I'm very proud this building was acquired during my term. So by acquiring this building, we solved the space problem rather permanently. So we are very happy. And also we obtained 1 dormitory building here. So we can accommodate more visitors more easily. Okay, thank you for your attention. I like to, how to, in United States is rather, so many pure science like mathematics is supported by private funding, like Clay Math, Jim Simon Center, and even MSRI is quite, I heard that quite successful raising fund. But in Korea, even we start with some money from Samsung company, But even Samsung company want to keep it secret. Because other people approach them to ask money. So this is really a kind of difficult situation. So of course we also we keep getting some small donation from real, but so we never been successful to get big money from kind of big companies or big donors.